We need a town clerk. Well, it'd be nice to have a town clerk anyway. And also, maybe somebody, maybe Watson, could you grab the sign-in sheet that people sign in for public comment? Thank you very much. We appreciate volunteers as well. Okay, great. Usually what we do is we have you take attendance, and then we have the Pledge of Allegiance. And today we have a very special honor of having a scout troop here to do the pledge for us. So if you could take attendance, that'd be great. Welcome to Town Hall, folks. We're just getting our tape recorder going there. Tonight is a regular town board meeting. We have quite a full agenda. The last meeting we had was, the workshop meeting was somewhat abbreviated because of the bad weather. And so we're probably going to have a little bit of discussion on some of these items, which we haven't had a chance to look at thoroughly. And we'll have votes. And that will be following a couple of very special recognitions, which I'll start in 1 second. We got to make sure this tape recorder works right. Tell you what, why don't we just do it? Because you can write down who's here anyway. You don't need a tape recorder for that. Here.
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 All right, well, once again, welcome. It's my very special honor to welcome Cub Scout Pack 88 here from Palisades. They just had a wonderful tour of Town Hall. They're working on a badge related to learning about town government. And we appreciate your interest in our work here and welcome you to our town board meeting room. This is the room where the town board meets to make decisions about the town budget and policy issues and take care of whatever business we can to benefit the people who live here. So if you would do me the favor of standing up and leading us off in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was very, very nicely done. Why don't you stay here for a minute or two? You probably don't want to stay through the whole meeting, but we have another special recognition which we'd like you to see. And that, in short, is that this is a very special time in Orangetown because we're in March, and who knows what really, really big parade takes place in this town in a week or so. All right. Shout it out from the back there. St. Patrick's Day Parade, right? Well, today, this month is also a time when we recognize the special contributions of the Irish to town history and to American culture and economy, and we celebrate today with the declaration of Irish Cultural Heritage Month. And to that end, we have three individuals here tonight who we want to present this proclamation, which we put together here in Town Hall. And I won't read the whole thing, but I just wanted to say a couple of words from it so you have some idea of what we're talking about tonight. So it goes something like this. Whereas the individuals of Irish descent have played an invaluable role in the history of the U.S., New York State, and the town of Orangetown, making contributions as writers, business owners, artists, soldiers, musicians, athletes, educators, actors, politicians, doctors, scientists, lawyers, and every other profession. And it goes through a number of other items here. And it ends with, now therefore it be resolved that I, Andrew Stewart, Supervisor of Town of Orangetown, on behalf of the entire town board, and it gives us pleasure to do this each year, do declare and proclaim March 2015 to be Irish Cultural Heritage Month in the town of Orangetown. And I'd like to invite Mr. Vince Tyre, if you would, just to come to the podium for 1 minute. And with your two comrades here, Jim Russell and also Tom Levy. And if I could present this to you, and if you'd like to say a word or two, you are the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade this year, and for that we congratulate you. We thank you. Obviously, it's a indication of your leadership in the Irish community and in the town. And we congratulate and thank you on that, and wish you the very best of luck as Grand Marshal in this really awesome undertaking of leading such an enormous parade. Our police department, highway department, and everybody is focused on making sure this event works out well and everybody has a good time in the town of Orangetown. So let me bring this over to you and present it to you. And then maybe you can say a word or two about what's going on this time of year. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Here's your proclamation. Jim? Tom?
Thank you.
Oh, hold on a second. High-tech camera there. Would you say a word or two?
Sure. Oh, just a couple words on what Supervisor Stewart alluded to. We start planning the parade literally the day after last year's parade, and the town is tremendously helpful. I see Jimmy Dean here from the Highway Department, who gets up very early that day and gets all the barricades and the green line down the middle of the road. The fire, the police, the ambulance corps, from all over Rockland chip in to make this, I think, one of the greatest events in the county over the course of the year, certainly one of the largest events. So I'd just like to acknowledge all of them and thank them for that. If anybody hasn't heard, the parade's on March 22nd, steps off at promptly at 1:30 from the Pfizer parking lot. I think this year promises, we've got our fingers crossed on the weather, particularly given what we've been through the last month and a half or so, but promises to be one of the biggest parades we've had. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the Avenue.
Good luck. We'll be out there with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out to Town Hall. And also for Cub Scout Pack 88, you're welcome to stay with us, but if you'd like to leave, don't be bashful. Sure, you have a lot of homework to do. Have a safe trip home, and thank you for visiting. All right, so we have some folks here in Town Hall. Some folks have actually signed up to speak in our public comment period, and I just wanted to make a motion to open public comment. If I could have a second from here, Councilman Divany first. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. I do have new business under the question of a town code review, but we'll talk about that a little later once everybody's had a chance to say their piece about whatever topic is bringing you out tonight. The first person who's signed in, we're going to do sign-ins and then by a raise of hands. Typically, we get our statements done under 3 minutes, and we have a little clock as a reminder about that. And obviously, if you don't need 3 minutes, say what you need to say. And we appreciate your both your brevity and your eloquence. So for starters, Mr. James Flynn.
Good evening, Supervisor, Town Board. I ask all the Town Board members to ignore the slander, libel, defamatory attacks against town employees, yourselves, the employees of Anelitech, state and federal employees, DEC. I want you to ignore Mr. Tormey calling you and all town residents bigots and anti-Semites. These statements are just the latest step in the paranoia-fueled, baseless conspiracy theory. If I did not know that Mr. Tormey studied psychology in Harvard and had a law degree from UCLA, I would put it off to a chemical imbalance or brain damage. I guess it could be. Or maybe it's just the only path open to someone who knows that the facts are against him and that this is the only way to win. He and most of the Stop at Delitech members must know by now that Delitech is a research and development company. They're not stupid. They must realize that a production plant would have to produce 2 million gallons a year to be productive and make financial sense, not 22 gallons a day. You've listened to their questions. You've gotten them the answers they asked for. Just because they refuse to accept the facts, there's really nothing you can do about it at this point. Do not destroy the economic viability of the Pfizer site by succumbing to their demand for a moratorium. I urge you to refuse any request for moratorium. Go ahead and revise your comprehensive plan and rewrite regulations, something you should be doing to stay on top of it. I ask that you be vigilant with Delitech and everybody else. I don't want them to be polluting, but they've got monitors. They've got devices to clear the air. I want you to watch them. Make sure that gets done. And if they violate it, shut them down. But I don't want you to put a moratorium and destroy the best chance we have with the Pfizer site going forward with leasing out and utilizing the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sister Ursula Joyce.
Mr. Supervisor and members of the town board, my name is Sister Ursula Joyce. I'm the executive director at Thorpe Village in Spark Hill, Route 340. We are, as you know, the first and I believe still the only senior citizen housing in the town of Orangetown that offers Section 8 housing, which makes affordable for persons who are income eligible and they need to pay only 30% of their income for rent. In the 33 years that we've been in operation, we are now ready for a major overhaul of rehab project, which we have been working on for the past 2 years with funding, we're refinancing and rehabbing, and we're now at the stage where we're ready to begin. I did submit a letter to you back in September asking about the building permit. I know that you have a moratorium. I understand the rationale for it. But I do know that you still have the ability to grant waivers, dispensations, whatever. So what I am doing is requesting now that you do consider our request that we have some consideration from the cost of the building permit. It will allow us to direct some of the funds which would have to go to the permit into additional amenities and the cost of the project. So I'm submitting a letter again with this request, and I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thanks for coming to speak with us about that. We do applaud your organization and all the fine services that you have there. So thank you again.
My mom was there for 18 years, I think 18 or 17. The Dominican sisters do a great job at Thorpe and also at Dowling, and they are definitely a jewel here for this, for the town. And we thank Sister Ursula Joyce. I don't want to talk about age, but I know Sister is older than a lot of the people that she's taking care of there in Thorpe. She does a great job. Thank you.
Well said. Miss Eileen Larkin?
Good evening, members of the board. I'd like to address the issue of the adult housing that's being proposed for Orangetown, basically over by the Hollows and that area of Veterans Highway. I'm talking about the proposed assisted living project near the Anderson Field. That property now is is now zoned R80. I'm not speaking for or against the project. I've always spoken that we do need that type of facility here in Orangetown, independent and assisted living. What I'm talking about is the zoning, the current zoning on that property is R80, which is 2-acre zoning. And the applicant, I won't name who he is, but he owns the property. He bought it as 2-acre zoning and now is asking for a use variance permit rather than applying for a zone change. The property abuts R80 property also. And in all fairness to the people that live there and abut that zone, I think they should be given an opportunity to come out and voice their concerns for or against this project. If you know, for many years, I've always protected the zoning in the town of Orangetown. I started out that way in Palisades, and that's always been dear to my heart. The other issue is I think they should be asked to apply for a zone change, not to deny the this use. I definitely think it's something that's good for Orangetown. But I think it's a slippery slope when we allow R80 zoning to go into MFRs. And I think our current town comprehensive plan also requests that we protect this type of zoning here in Orangetown. The other issue is the issue that Mr. Divney brought up about the proposed I make chocolate chip cookies, Toll Brothers project over by the Hollows again. What I'd like to see is another opportunity to have another developer come in and present some other ideas to the town. I'm not saying I'm for or against this housing. It's expensive housing. Again, it's $500,000 to $600,000 a unit. For most people who live in Orangetown, I don't think that's affordable. But anyway, if a developer feels he can sell those units and bring that tax base into the town, that's fine. But Toll Brothers builds a certain type of home. You see their plans and all the papers. It's cookie cutter development. And I think we should see another concept for housing for seniors. We don't necessarily need 2- and 3-story unit. Everything on one floor usually works for seniors. But anyway, I hope to live and die in my house in 15 Horntook Road, Palisades. I love it over there. I should also like to give my best to the 3 police officers that are retired or are retiring, especially to George Garrett.
Nice.
I know him, and I wish all of them all the best. And they've served Orangetown well and proudly.
Thank you for saying that, and we are planning on recognizing them in a more official way when the police chief kind of organizes that, so we'll give them a proper send-off. Dimitri Lattis?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board. Thank you for hearing me. I'm Dimitri Lattis of
Thanks for
Piermont.
coming.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Dimitri Lattis of Piermont. I'm associated with Rockland FC, one of the town soccer organizations. We spoke here last September, which, just a reminder, is almost 6 months ago, or maybe even over 6 months ago now, that we spoke on this topic. And I want to bring it to your attention one more time. As you know, the Orangetown Soccer Complex is currently operated under a land use agreement by OMM. Stipulated in that agreement is that they have 85% of members be town residents, okay? Just as a little visual, the point of that is that the little orange dots would be Orangetown kids. When you drive by that beautiful complex, it would look something like that on any given night, on average, okay? Not every field, but on average, it would look like this. Unfortunately, 6 months later, on any given night, the reality looks very much like this. This is 6 months later. after we brought it to your attention, after they've known what they've been doing for 4, 5 years now, we brought it to you guys' attention. So, what I'm asking, as these are the kids off the field. These are the Orangetown kids not on that complex. As they stand in violation of that agreement with the town, we have to find a way to restore to the original purpose of that complex. That complex is a $0 lease. Granted, the rent for that, if you're not going to pay dollars, in exchange for that $0 land is housing our town's kids on that facility. There is a failure in that system. We have asked you 6 months ago to please pay attention to this. Please hold them accountable. Our town newspaper reported how they go about making the numbers seem as though we're truly meeting this goal. But yet we're not. On any given night, that's not what you're seeing. They count kids twice. They use kids that enrolled 18 months prior to show this season's numbers. Our town reported on that. We need accountability today so our kids can be on that field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lattice. Appreciate that. There's a lot to say on that topic, and I appreciate you making your voice heard. Thomas Sullivan?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to talk about Anelitech. The town government needs to do everything in its power to stop Anelitech from building this pilot plant. This is not a research facility. It's not a testing facility. This is a pilot plant. It's a demonstration manufacturing plant, a pilot-scale biorefinery, all the things that they used to call it when they were trying to get permitting in Springfield, Massachusetts. Then they came here, the name changed. They're going to be cooking tons of plant waste to make BTX by the barrel. Has anybody considered what happens if, God forbid, there's an accident? Has everybody considered what Anelitech plans to do with this building, this $18 million building, 5 years from now when they're done learning how to make BTX? What else comes next? Words like biomass, green benzene, eco-friendly doesn't change what this is. This is a chemical plant, plain and simple. This is not a good use of the Pfizer property. It's not something that we want near our families. The Rockland County Department of Health won't protect us. The New York State DEC won't protect us. The residents of Orangetown are counting on you guys to protect us. You guys need to pressure the planning board to do things the right way and not speed this along. And if necessary, we need you guys to step up and stop this. Once you let them build this plant, it's too late. They can do whatever they want. And no one's going to protect us. You have two choices here. You could stop the plant and you could be heroes, or you can let the plant be built and see how that works come election day. For those of you who still support Anelitech on this, I sincerely hope that you change your views on this once you start looking at the facts and you view some of the research that people are doing here. You can't defend this any longer. It's a chemical plant, and people see it for what it is. It's not some laboratory with guys running around in lab coats. This is a manufacturing facility. Smaller than a regular one, maybe, but still a manufacturing facility. You can't hide behind the planning board and say that it's not you, it's them, because that's what happens so often when the planning board does something unpopular. You guys will be held responsible for their actions or their failure. You can't hide behind the threat of a lawsuit. I think we know that that's not really the big concern that everybody makes it out to be. There can be no excuses for failure here. If you allow this to be built, you will have failed us, or worse, sold us out. If the plant gets built, this is going to follow you all for the rest of your political lives. It never goes away. and no one can protect you from the wrath of the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Ms. Heather Hurley?
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and Town Council members. I'm here tonight to present to you a copy of the online petition from change.org, electronically signed by residents in opposition of Anelitec's proposed expansion plan. As of 7 p.m. tonight, it contains 2,004 electronic signatures and 799 signatures on paper. I'm also presenting a petition to the town board which contains 674 signatures on paper and requests the following. We, the citizens of the town of Orangetown and all adjoining communities in Rockland and Bergen County, hereby petition and respectfully request that the town board of the town of Orangetown immediately undertake a full and complete review of all existing town zoning codes, ordinances, and regulations, and explore new provisions to control and regulate any and all prospective uses which would involve either biomass incineration, pyrolysis, or the creation, whether by thermochemical, cracking, or other methods, storage or transportation of aromatic or organic chemicals such as benzene, xylene, and toluene, and further, recognizing that such prospective uses are new and may present risks of harm in the event of accidents, and that properties and communities where such uses are located may degrade in value. That this town board consider the establishment of a townwide moratorium on the approval of such uses for a reasonable period of time while all relevant studies are undertaken. I would also like to inform the board on the record, in addition to an email that I sent to you all, of a correspondence received from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation dated February 28th, which confirms that what they issued to the town of Orangetown on January 15th, 2015, a week before the zoning board meeting on Anelitec, is a letter to the town and not a report, which is what officials have been referring to this as, and therefore potentially misleading the public into thinking that the DEC conducted an official report with actual testing. I would also like to bring to your attention an email correspondence between the DEC and Anelitec. The FOIL documents from the New York State DEC includes concealed vital air emissions from the public. This information about concealed air emissions knowledge to my knowledge, has not been officially made known to the public by the town. Mr. Divney, you stated on February 10th regarding the DEC report that so far all reports came back saying that it's not a danger. Sorry, that was Mr. Valentine. Mr. Divney, you said that you've read it and it's pretty compelling. Can you tell us exactly where that determination was stated in the two flawed reviews provided by Triumvirate Environmental and Trinity Consultants and from the New York State DEC, which has since confirmed that what they issued on January 15th is not a report after all? One other point, the information that Anelitec provided to the New York State DEC prior to their issued letter dated January 15th is inaccurate and false. Per the December 15th, 2015 architectural plans submitted by Anelitec to the town, they list the diameter of the smokestack/vent pipe as 6 inches, yet the information provided to the New York State DEC by Anelitec lists the diameter as 3 inches. Although the town has changed the terminology on the website, how is it that some officials continue to refer to a state agency letter as a report with flawed information? That said, I feel it is the board's responsibility and duty to the public, and I encourage you all to vote yes to Supervisor Stewart's resolution to authorize the town attorney's office to draft a moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hurley. Denise Shorn.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and Town Council members. I am here to enthusiastically support any effort to impose a moratorium on approvals of certain industrial or potentially toxic applications by the land use boards and on issuance of building, sewer, or other permits for such uses during the duration of the moratorium. I would urge you to set clear parameters for companies seeking to move into light industrial properties. I urge you to set guidelines for companies who want to produce any amount of chemicals designated by EPA regulations as extremely hazardous, seeking to move into our company. The town needs to determine whether this type of production will be allowed at all in the town of Orangetown. I would also request that the processing of adulterated biomass be added to the prohibited uses in Town Code 4.42 to ensure that companies processing biomass do not use municipal waste sources, waste or salvaged wood, which per the New York State Biomass Power Guide have the potential to create hazardous emissions of carcinogens, including 19 different types of pesticides, 9 herbicides, and other harmful substances such as lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury. In consideration of the fact that certain Rockland County Health Department laws that in the past would have had jurisdiction over new projects have been rescinded, I would also ask that the long-form and subsequent environmental impact studies be mandatory for any light industrial expansion project, and that the short form be eliminated completely. Third-party data about all potential emissions should be mandatory as well. It seems to me the town code was written to protect residents during the age of paper mills and coal mining. But now, in the new era of biochemicals and other new technologies, our town code must be updated to protect us from new and emerging threats to the health and the well-being of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Cully.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Ken Cully. I'm from Nanuet, New York. I live just blocks north of the proposed Tech refinery. And first of all, I'd like to say it's an honor that I'm able here to come and exercise my rights as an American citizen to address elected leaders on matters that affect the public. I have been opposed to the Tech refinery since the first planning board meeting back last September, back when they said that it would be producing organic chemicals, not the highly flammable and dangerous BTX. This project will have very, very little impact, if any positive impact, on our economy. By their own figures, Tech says that they will produce 25 to 30 jobs, and I call these people that will be working here, they're fly-by-nighters. They're people that are not from here, they don't live here, they may rent here, they'll be here for 2 years, and then they'll leave. If you look on their resumes, they probably lived in Madison, Wisconsin, Amherst, Massachusetts, or Berlin, New Hampshire, all places where biomass plants are up and running at this point. The tax impacts will be negligible, as stand-up New York benefits must be paid for, and that probably will not mean much of a meaningful tax relief for our area. There's been a great issue about the air emissions and the testing on the air emissions, and one of the issues that seems to be passed over is the hazardous waste, which is all that Tech will produce. The BTX, the leftover ash, the secret catalyst that no one knows about, everything is hazardous. The DEC has not issued a report clearing them on the hazardous materials yet. They just got the information on February 20th. I don't know how we're going forward with this. It just makes no sense to me to make a decision without the information that we asked for. Everything that comes out of that plant must be shipped. It must be taken through our streets, trucked through our streets. The opportunity for disaster is omnipresent. A few things about benzene. Benzene is the end product of this refinery. It's not like we're making medicine or vaccine with a byproduct of benzene. It's benzene. Green benzene, it's still benzene, all the bad stuff. And through all the new slick media blitz by Tech, they have not said this. They have not produced this statement, and the statement is, benzene is good for you because. And the reason they can't is because benzene is not good for you. That's why we have catalytic converters. That's why we try to control benzene. That's why we limit our exposure to it. It won't make my hair any darker, it won't make my teeth stronger, and it's not going to make my garden grow. There are no positive effects to benzene. I've said this before, and I say it again to you. It is beyond me that we are even discussing the construction of a plant that produces nothing but carcinogenic products in a residential neighborhood. I ask you to support a moratorium against this. Please do not endanger my family, my children, or my way of life. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your statement. That's the folks who actually signed in on this sheet. By raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak tonight on any topic? relative to town business. Yes, sir, in the light blue. If you could just introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Scott Panis from Nanuet. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I've spoken with you before. I, too, am happy that Supervisor Stewart has proposed this moratorium, which is much needed. We're working on laws that we created many, many years ago, and a lot of new things have come up since then. I, too, am appalled that even the chance that anybody, the planning board, would be considering making a decision when A, the Article 78 that were filed by lawyer Brian Condon have not yet been reviewed by a judge. Secondly, the DEC has withheld documents from us through the foils from John Tormey, who you're all aware of, that documents have not been provided to us. And I know that because emails that I had that went back and forth with George Swikert were withheld from the information that was foiled. So I don't know what else that they've withheld. I know there's a 10 megabyte zip drive that was sent over by Chuck Sorensen. Along the lines of Chuck Sorensen, as I've told you before, at the Pearl River Library, when they came to tell us the truth about Anelitech, he was lying as far as his involvement with the company, as far as whether he was a shareholder or not. Tell one lie, tell two lies. So the thing is when they came to give us the facts about Anelitech and he came and lied to us, that to me doesn't hold very well. Most importantly, I walked the streets, West Palisades Avenue, Nanuet Avenue, and the streets that surround the Pfizer property with my youngest daughter on Sunday, letting them know that there would be the meeting, the so-called final meeting for the planning board. 3 streets, and I know some of you read my email today that came, 3 streets, 30 signatures, multiple homes that opened their doors that came out that said that they cannot believe that after years of finally getting control of the stench and the smell on Wednesdays and Sundays that came from this facility, that you're starting it up again. Poison. You will be allowing poison to be made. Mr. Sildusky will be allowing poison to be made in our neighborhood. Here is the thing. I spoke with a gentleman whose wife died of cancer. Multiple people expressed that people they know have had breast cancer. It is not a secret that the breast cancer rates are higher than anywhere in the area. So when you said 2 weeks ago, Mr. Valentine, well, if it's safe, you might have to accept it. It's not just this company. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things going on over there, but we don't need more poison to be made. So everybody is accountable. Everybody that gets a vote on the planning board tomorrow night is accountable. Everybody here is accountable. And people are frustrated that this has just been pushed underneath and seemingly a blind eye's been turned. Supervisor Stewart, I appreciate your efforts for trying to make this right. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments. By a raise of hand, is anybody else here? Mr. Morgan?
Good evening. My name is Watson Morgan. I live in Blauvelt. I live near Rockland State Hospital, as some of the councilmen do. As a start, with this past weather, lots of deer. I don't know whether you have too much deer in the village of Nyack, probably not, but we certainly do. And I'm sure Mr. Valentine, Mr. Divany do also. I had Santa's entire fleet in my backyard the other night. They've decimated some evergreen bushes and shrubs on the yard in the front totally. They've been there in my house for 40 years, and they're gone. They're done. But what I primarily wanted to speak about was I'm on the Environmental Committee and also the Parks and Recreation Committee. And at the Environmental Committee this past weekend, we discussed and looked at the map that Toll Brothers had, and there was a lot of people who were not particularly happy with that, partly because from the inception, of having a green belt. Our first position is that we should be retaining that property totally for recreational purposes. I was elated when you went into the arrangement with Broadacres that you had to swap some property, and it was quickly identified that the property along Lake Tapan should be identified in its entirety because it's a flip-flop. You have 60-some-odd acres there and 60-some-odd acres in total along the reservoir. That would be a perfect swap for eventual use for many recreational purposes. Just off the top of my head, this is a preliminary. It's nothing concrete in dimensions. We have thought about many uses over the years. Come to my mind, not looking at this 250-pound frame, but in my heyday, I did run cross-country, and we loved to run in venues that were beautiful and creative. I think that on the property that we own, it's not something that we'd be looking to purchase. We own that property. And just looking at the dimensions, and thank you, Mr. Toll, or the Toll Brothers, looking at their schematics, you could easily put a 2-3 mile cross-country run through that property and also the property behind the power plant. And you could also, at the same time, create a few fields. And what we've asked for through the years, for the last 15 years that I know of, to have some pavilions, to maybe have things on that nature, which you have in our thought pattern on the property. But that
Right.
could entail the entire property. But this is just a start, and I'm not going to speak any longer. And thank you for the time. But I think that the members perhaps should come to our environmental committee meetings. They're on the last Saturday. Mr. Moore has, and certainly you, Supervisor, have come to many of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Thanks for your service on the Environmental Committee and the Parks Committee as well. We're going to have to wrap up soon. Are there any other hands raised for public comment? I see a person.
Hello, gentlemen. It's me again. Manny Lorenz, president of Rockland FC. I didn't come here to speak tonight about Rockland FC, but Analytech. Last time I was here, I asked you gentlemen which one of you gentlemen are going to be our champion. Which one is going to step up and represent this community to stop Analytech, whatever it takes. I don't think that's happened yet. You know, I coach kids and I tell them to be brave. We throw that word around a lot. I tell them to have courage. And I'm asking you gentlemen, I think you guys have that courage. It takes courage to run a campaign. It takes courage to be up there and make decisions. And now I'm asking you to have that courage, to have that strength of will to put a stop to this. Put it to a vote. Put the moratorium there. These people are courageous. They come here every single week or every month, whenever you have meetings, to put an end to this. They're asking you to speak for them, begging you. Have the courage, gentlemen, to vote this down. Be brave. Be courageous for the people of the town that you represent, for your neighbors, your family, your friends, your children. Because if we don't stop this, the health of everyone in this town will be compromised. And this town will change. There will no longer be a Rockland FC or an OMM or a TZ Lacrosse. It'll all just go away. People will want to not live here anymore. It will change. So please, find the courage, find the strength of will. We will support you. We will have your back. We are aware there could be consequences, but we have the courage to face them. And we ask, do you? Thank you.
Thank you. There is a matter that we need to get on to. I'd like to make a motion that we close public hearing.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. We will take one more comment since you came in late.
Hi, my name is Denise Scheid. I live in Pearl River. I lived in Rockland County all my life. I've done genealogy in my family. We're a very healthy stock. Since I've lived down here, I have one child who's severely autistic, another one who's born without ears, and another one who just finished lots of chemotherapy. Benzene causes leukemia. It's one of the particulate matters that is going to be in the air around Pearl River if that plant goes up, bar none. It will be there. As it is, when the heat hits Pearl River, the air does not leave Pearl River Central. You need an environmental impact study there. On a very hot day, you're going to have a heat barrier on the top with the benzene sitting there. Do you know how many kids in this area have cancers? You know, St. Baldrick's, that fundraiser that you do every single year for these kids? You know how many DPIG tumors there are in Rockland County, specifically in the Orangeburg, Nyack area? Well, Nyack leukemia and DPIG. I'm asking you, there should be a stop to this. We're like at the last straw right now. This is the future of your grandchildren. And being that I marched through chemo with my daughter, I know exactly the toxins that are triggers, and I try to keep her safe from them. But this will not help us. This will only add to the issue. And these kids are outside breathing and playing and jogging right by Pfizer. They're going to be swallowing this stuff daily. It alters your chromosomes. It alters the DNA. And right now, you have the power to stop this, because it isn't just you. When you're gone, it's your grandchildren. It's their chromosomes. It is their gene pool, their genetic integrity that you're looking at. They have toluene and xylene, which are also effectors. These are fast-acting carcinogens. It's not even this is a no-brainer. You just can't do this. You can find there's so many other multi-million-dollar projects that can sit into Pfizer. You know, herbal medicines. I know it sounds a little bit hokey, but anything along in the green sphere can be put there. This company is really greenwashing everybody. Website looks great. I've built websites like that myself to make it look good, but they're not that great. They could go someplace else where there's less of a population if they intend to do some good deeds, but this is not the place for it. We've seen the lanterns by the fire station that they light up each month.
Thank you.
In memory of the people that pass in the area. Consider that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, ma'am. I'll make a motion to close public comment period. Can I have a second? Second. From more, all in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. I just got a set of resolutions actually related to a matter which the town board had voted to put on the agenda, but it was a while ago and it slipped off. It's a public hearing, which I think we need to take care of. We'll only take a minute or two. So if the town board could just review these separately printed resolutions a minute. If you recall, the police had submitted a kind of a housekeeping modification of the way disorderly conduct code is written to make it easier for them to enforce the law and to keep it under the town code as opposed to the state code, if I remember right. So to that end, and with your cooperation, I'd like to move these set of resolutions because we were supposed to have a public hearing. It was going to start a few minutes ago. Is everybody all right with that? Okay. So the first resolution will be to open the public hearing on the proposed local law. Can I hear a motion for that, please? Move from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. So right now, we're having a public hearing. It was properly notified and advertised. I have a copy of the advertisement right here, setting the public hearing for tonight. Is anybody here to speak about this issue, which was also to take place tonight? All right, not seeing any hands raised. Do you need to make a comment about it, town attorney? We also, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, but appreciate the microphone usage there. They're pretty receptive, so if you just speak, it'll come out.
Well, this local law, I believe, was workshopped a few weeks
was,
ago. It was
right.
certainly discussed. So it is simply a town code provision that largely mirrors the state disorderly conduct statute. Many municipalities have a town code version of certain local laws. The police have indicated that it will make the enforcement process easier, keeping officers on the street longer rather than the time that it takes for the associated paperwork under the state law. So it's a town code violation, subject to enforcement through the issuance of appearance tickets, and it prohibits disorderly conduct, which is a wide range of conduct, but defined so that it's not ambiguous in terms of what it is that's proscribed. It's largely the same as Section 240 of the penal law.
Thanks for that description. Any questions by members of the town board about this matter? It makes the police job easier. That sounds like a good thing to me, reducing the time spent on paperwork. So let's see. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the proposed local law. Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Anytime we do anything that changes or amends a local law, we do a secret hearing. In this case, the town board, I'll make a motion for the town board to act as lead agency with respect to the proposed local law, amending the town code to add a new chapter 10C entitled Disorderly Offenses, and also to make a determination under secret. Can I have a second on that?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Well, actually, I didn't get to the end of that resolution. The determination, which I should read rather than assuming it, would be that it would be a negative declaration under secret, so that to indicate the town board does not view this change in law to have an environmental impact of any significance. So just be clear on what you just voted on. Lead agency and secret declaration. Lastly, we have a resolution to adopt the law described here and reviewed previously. The resolution goes that the town board hereby adopts proposed law number, I guess it doesn't have a number yet, but will soon, establishing the town code chapter 10C of disorderly offenses. Can I have a second on that, please? Do you have any? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. So it's motion from me, second from Divany. All right. Thank you. Sorry that one slipped off. It was a while back that we set that hearing date. I just wanted to hand out to the town board something I sent you in the email and we've discussed a little bit. I'm going to give you a handout first. This is relative to new business. All right, here you go. This is a new business item I'd like to add to the agenda, as you're aware. And I won't go into detail here, except to say that it does intend a moratorium on certain industrial applications. But what the resolution proposes is that the town board vote to request from the town attorney to actually draft the moratorium law and put some thought into that and come back with a draft for us. If we like it, we can set a public hearing and review it. And I will ask the town board members to join me in voting to support that resolution at the end of this meeting under new business. All right. Number one, and most of these matters have been reviewed in workshop, and we've had a chance to look at them, so we'll go fairly quickly. Hopefully that will be understood from the public and the TV. The first item is number one. This is approving a street naming of a private road, calling it Penny Lane. It has to do with subdivision and so on and so forth.
Already named Penny Lane.
It's about time that we actually did the resolution then. So I'll take that as a motion from Councilman Divany. Do I hear a second over here? Valentine, all in favor, say aye. Penny Lane, so named. It's a lovely name. Number 2 is the energy curtailment agreement, which is basically a load shedding agreement that's been worked through by our engineering department and the finance department that will enable the town to get paid to run its generators from time to time when the grid needs a little relief. And we can take care of ourselves for part of a day. So this is, I think it's important. I'd like to make a motion on that. Do I hear a second? Second from Moore. All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, if there's any discussion, please just stop me. Number 3, this is a resolution to retain Daniel Duthie to represent the town as part of a municipal consortium where all the towns are paying a little bit to have representation, because Orange and Rockland is proposing a rather dramatic increase in the rates it charges our town residents for electricity and gas. And I would ask the town board to support this so that we're properly represented in our town residents and the town itself, which is a ratepayer. Hopefully, was that? Oh, right, setting the cap, right?
Well, setting the cap on the town's provided share of expenses, not included.
So we adopted before, and this amends that adoption to recognize some of the expenses that might come up. I'll make a motion for that. Can you hear a second? Over here, Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next up is a very much related matter. This is to retain Daniel Duthie to try to expedite the negotiations with Orange and Rockland and the closing of a streetlight deal that includes a financial analysis, a cost-benefit analysis, and the actual closing and contracts related to operating our own streetlights. We have a motion from Divany. Do I have a second over here? From Moore. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. And that, as with the other one, is set with a cap on it, so we know the maximum we'll have to spend if it even gets that high. Number 5 was the Irish Cultural Heritage Month resolution that we presented earlier. Dennis, would you like to make a motion for this? All right, from Troy. Second over here. Valentine, all in favor, say aye. I thought it was really nice that Vince, James, and Tom came in, especially when the scouts were here too. Number 6, this is an agreement with Computel Consultants to do a specialized audit of our franchise fees and utility payments to make sure that we've been getting all the revenues we're due and that we're not overpaying for the utilities. Discussed before, the town board asked me to look into it and get references. I did, and it looks like a kind of a no-lose proposition for the town. So I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? Anybody got Divany? All in favor, say aye. Number 7 is a reappointment of members of the Shade Tree Commission, who I want to congratulate on their work. Most recently, the group really rallied together when the very large and very old ash tree in Spark Hill had really gone past the end of its life and had to be removed. And the group worked together to make that wood from the tree available to various woodworkers. And really, they've already done some marvelous work, lathing salad bowls and making other beautiful things from the ash tree. So I think it's fitting that they do that with such a revered tree. And I would like to make a motion to appoint Mary Vale, Rebecca Moose, and Joy Macy to Shade Tree Commission for a 1-year term. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second over here. Tom Moore, all in favor, say aye. The next committee is the Traffic Advisory Board, and the names are basically the same as last year, and we thank them for their service. Motion from Divany, second over here. Troy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 9 is the surplusing of equipment from the Highway Department, and there's one piece of equipment listed. I'll make a motion for this surplusing. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Over here, more, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 10 is the Association of Towns Annual Highway School, sending Superintendent James Dean and Stefan Muno. Michael Dillon and Carl Bone for training. Who'd like to make a motion for this? Divany, over here. Troy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jim, thank you for your work on that. By rushing, I don't mean to minimize these items. They're important, but we might as well get through them. People have been waiting. Number 11, this is the showmobile for the Nyack Chamber of Commerce for Springfest. This is from the Parks Department, and they've got all their paperwork, and it costs $350. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second over here? More?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 12 is the approval of Matthew Lenahan, computer operator, permanent. He was on a provisional status after taking that position. So can I hear a motion for this, please? From Valentine, do I hear a second over here? Second. Divany, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Somewhat similar, we have the approval in number 13 of Kenneth Tomeo as supervisor of parking enforcement. And we bid farewell to Paul Kelly, who's done a wonderful job. And this resolution, I will make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? Over here from Dennis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's a part-time job, and we appreciate his work on that. Number 14, approving the attendance at a training for police officers on crash scenes and other kinds of investigations. This is for Sergeant Kirk Vega and Police Officer Michael Taylor. Do I hear a motion for this?
Moved.
From Moore, second from Troy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I thank them for going out and getting training and coming back and benefiting the town with that. Number 15, the next few are retirements. And so in each case with these police officers, we thank them for their service. We will have them back in here for a send-off that the police department will organize. But in the meantime, we do have to make it official, so we accept with regret the resignation retirement of police officer Robert Smith, effective January 31st. Can I have a motion for that, please?
Moved.
From Troy, second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 16, this is the accept with regret the resignation of Jerry Batari. Can I hear a motion?
Moved.
Troy, over here, Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That one is effective February 28th. Number 17 is retirement of George Garrett, effective March 21st, day before St. Patrick's Day. We have a motion from Divany, second from myself. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Number 18 is the settlement of a disciplinary proceeding in regards to employee number 1457. Do I hear a motion for this one, please? Troy, second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 19 is approving parking guidelines and prohibitions for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, period. And it describes a list of roads and no parking hours here that are being recommended by the police department and the highway department, presumably. And that these changes will be posted appropriately so that everybody knows what the parking restrictions are. Do I hear a motion for this resolution, please? Over here. Troy? I got you. Tom Moore, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 20, this is certification of 6 companies who are, have the proper paperwork to do sewer work in the town, and it lists them there. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? Over here. Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 21 is authorizing the release of a request for proposals for the batting cages. From Divany, second from myself. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you to the Parks Department and the attorneys for handling that. Looking forward to that. Number 22, this is a performance bond pursuant to a planning board decision, and so on and so forth. They're putting a certain amount of money in the bank to make sure that the proper facilities are installed. And that's $28,560. This is for a subdivision off of West Erie Street in Blauvelt. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 23, and thank you to our engineering department and the sewer department for organizing this. We have a contract here with GHD engineers who are analyzing flow data to measure the impact of all of the good work the sewer department's been doing, relining pipes to prevent rainwater from infiltrating into them, to maintain our compliance with state law for that. Do I hear a motion for this resolution from over here?
Sure.
From Moore, second from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So there was folks working on Main Street this morning, actually, around 8 o'clock, helping clear the line. And it's great to see our equipment being put to good use down there. Number 24, this is a resolution to grant permission to Charlie Madigan, town clerk, to attend the town clerk's conference in Rochester, New York.
Moved.
Move from Moore, second over here from Valentine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for volunteering on that one. Number 25, this is a list of documents which are being accepted and filed in the clerk's office. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? Second, Troy. All in favor say aye. Okay. Several items under new business. One which we're very excited about, and congratulations are due to Michael Boyza getting a promotion in the police department to sergeant. Do I hear a motion for this resolution? From Valentine, second from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
An amazingly good police officer, and we're proud to see him working for the town. Number 27 this reflects money that has come into the police department is being used for a very important educational event to take place in Orangetown on April 15th at 7 p.m. at the Pearl River Hilton. It's a symposium which will focus parents and students on the education and prevention programs available related to drug abuse. And it's a very important topic, and we're glad that the police are working with the Substance Abuse Committee, which is really showing some great leadership on this, to hold this educational event. So Dennis, would you like to make a motion here as liaison to substance abuse? Second from Tom. All in favor say aye. We'll make sure that we advertise that event on the town TV in any other way we can to get as many people going in there as possible. Number 28, this is the approval of attendance at a conference for Detective Sergeant James Sullivan and Police Officer David Madalena. And I'll make a motion for this one. Do I hear a second? Over here. Valentine, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 29 is an event which involves people running fast around a 5K loop and trying to keep up with the Tappan Zee High School cross-country team, which is virtually impossible. This is the Flying Dutchman 5K. I think Tom Moore and I tried to catch up a year or so ago, and it was, I think they laughed both of us. So this is resolved. The town board hereby authorizes the Town of Orangetown Highway Department, Police Department to lend assistance as needed with police auxiliary officers for this event on March 21st. And may the fastest win. A motion from Tom Moore, a second over here from Divany. All in favor say aye. Thanks, Tom. The next one relates to High Tour, and I don't know, I kind of want to have a little bit of discussion about this. I'll make a motion for it, but I would like to have some discussion, because I'm not sure that we're really ready to pull the trigger on this or not.
I move to pull it.
I move to table it until we have
Okay.
the other information back.
Thank you. Yeah, we've looked into some information about the relative costs and benefits of the animal control arrangement with High Tour. And in many ways, it's a good thing, but we want to take a closer look at it. So we're pulling item number 30 for tabling it. Moving on to number 31. This is creating a position, Director of Automated Systems, and it lists some details there. It is... Oh, yeah. All right, as amended, I'll make a motion for this. The resolution should read grade 21, not grade 12. Thank you, Jeff, for that.
I thought it was just a set salary like all the other department heads,
That is the salary.
but there's grades and steps.
I believe this does reflect the conversation with, that Donna and Finance have had with the town board. I don't remember deciding, whether it would be step or not, honestly, so your recollection on that very well may be correct. But I think it's probably written the way that we said to write it.
The way it was communicated was second grade.
Labor Management Council discussed it.
Labor Management has discussed this, yes, and the president of the union told me herself that she was in favor of this and had no issues with it.
The exempt position.
Excluded.
Right. All right, all those in favor say aye. Motion passes. 32, this is an annual agreement with Rockland County for mosquito control services at, I'm not sure if it's all the catch basins or some of them. Yep, I guess it's townwide. I'll make a motion for this. Do I hear a second? Second from Troy. All in favor say aye. This is one of those items that the county probably used to do as part of its health program that now we have to pay for. But it's a modest fee, and they have the license and the ability to go out and do it. So we're happy for that anyway. Number 33 is a Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, a very important committee. And so that committee is composed of 5 people who are listed here, and it's staffed by Rosemary Fernario. And who wants to make a motion for this committee reappointment? From Troy? Second over here from Moore. All in favor say aye. Aye. Great bunch of people, keeping our senior clubs kind of headed the right direction, which is great. 34, this is the Substance Abuse Committee that we mentioned earlier. Dennis, would you like to make a motion for this one? Motion from Dennis, second over here from Valentine. All in favor say aye. And congratulations to these individuals on their work in collaboration with the police and the schools and social services. 35, this is adding new individuals to the Substance Abuse Committee, and there are 3 people listed here. Dennis, would you like to motion this again? Motion for Troy, second from Moore. All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Our finance team is, for one thing, they're overseeing the annual audit, and there's a very intense and silent group of auditors here going through the books every single day. And it's a lot of work, and we appreciate that the finance team has supported that process. I see both Jeff and Janice here after hours all the time. And I guess as part of that, there's some reconciliations going on. So item number 36 is a budget amendments and transfers resolution. Jeff, would you like to say a word or two about this for the town board?
Yeah, this is similar to exactly what you said. A number of reconciliations, like in the very first example, you see that we had some surplus equipment in Blue Hill. So we had $5,500 in revenues that we didn't anticipate. So we're going to adjust the budget to reflect that. But as you would know, with 600 or so lines in the budget on the expense side, and another 100 or so on the revenue side, things don't go exactly as you expect. You're going to have pluses and minuses on almost every single account. And so
Here, you'll see a number of separate accounts that we are increasing or decreasing in order to put our books in balance.
But it's budget neutral, the end is just moving.
Yes, correct. This has no effect on the budget. This is just putting it in line with where we actually saw the actuals coming in.
Any other questions about the budget transfers?
The reason it looks like there's a lot more than last time is last year was all grouped by fund, so you can see as many. Here we've given you the exact line items and exactly what we're doing for each one.
Well, thanks for breaking it out. All right, do I have a motion to approve these budget transfer amendments? From Valentine, second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. So I do have one more item of new business. Let's do the audit first, and then we'll get back to that.
Okay. Today is our biggest audit of the year. We have a total of 5 warrants for a total of $12.5 million. The first warrant consists of 14 vouchers for $10.3 million, and that was for all of the special district funding and all of the fire district pass-throughs. So that's the big amount, but those are all 100% accurate, as you would expect. The second warrant consists of 32 vouchers for $425,000 and was strictly for utilities. Similarly, the third warrant was for utilities and had 40 vouchers for $133,000. The fourth warrant was 1 voucher for $76 for Rockland County Clerk for a temporary easement fee. And then the fifth warrant consists of 445 vouchers for $1.6 million and includes the following items. Items of interest, number 1, Alpha Laval, Ashbrook Simon Hart, $45,000 for rebuilding the sludge press, and that's the final payment for that, so that's complete. Number 2, Applied Golf, $59,000 for their March 2015 payment. Number 3, Atlantic Salt, $160,000 for highway salt purchases. Number 8, Chase Equipment Finance, that's the $53,000 for the Siemens Energy Performance Bond. Number 9, Kamung Supply, $14,000 for highway snow plows and equipment. Number 11, Craftco, $69,000 for highway equipment purchases. This was from bonded money, last year's bonding. Number 16, General Truck Parts, $17,000 for highway transfer case repairs. Number 19, Helmke, $36,000 for snow removal at OHA. Number 21, McLaren, $21,000 for flood mitigation at Spark Hill Creek with the bridge process. And number 24, Mohawk Resources, $18,000 for sewer equipment repairs. There's other big items on there, but they're standard, like New York Civil Service that we pay every time. So, but they're there for your edification. Any questions?
All right, Jeff, thank you for that review. So this resolution, I need to hear a motion to pay the vouchers on the general fund, Town Outside Village, Blue Hill, Broadacres, Highway, Sewer, Capital Projects, Risk Retention, and Special Parking, in a total amount of $12,515,349.50. Do I hear a motion for that, please? Who wants to spend some money? Move from Divany, second over here from Dennis. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. We have I just need to check. I have my piece of new business, which I want to put in front of the board. But also I just need to know, Eric, this is from Parks, you had talked to me about needing some executive session with the town board about a personnel kind of hiring. Okay, so we still need to do that, right? Okay, so just advising the town board, we need a few minutes to look at a situation in the Parks Department. where there may be some people coming and going and figuring out how to handle that. So the question I want to put before the board, which I've written up in the form of memo and circulated, I think on Friday last week, was essentially an argument which I feel like is fairly persuasive to have our town attorney team actually draft moratorium legislation that would, tackle what I see, and I think hopefully we can all agree, are some weaknesses in our review process for industrial applications. And I'm speaking specifically, and I don't want to go into it at length because you've got my memo, but essentially that when we have a situation where the planning board is doing secra and they're neg decking, and then the performance standards, which is essentially the whole story about air pollution and standards related to handling chemicals, is going over to the zoning board, a month later, it results in a situation where I think that our review process is subject to some vulnerabilities, essentially because the planning board is doing secra, and this isn't their fault. They're following the rules, but they're not benefiting from all the environmental information for their environmental impact review, which is going into the zoning board, until sometime later, in some cases, after they've actually made a declaration under secra. And I wanted to put that kind of front and center as one of several issues that I think we could do well by the town and do well in terms of consistency in treating applicants who are using performance standards code if we actually invest a little bit in reviewing how the town handles those codes and how they go from one land use board to the other, and so on and so forth. It would be my proposal that we actually have our town attorneys. It's somewhat of an onerous task, but I know they're up to it. Draft a moratorium legislation so that the town will be able to kind of hit the pause button on industrial applications and say, okay, let's make sure that we're treating them with the right set of tools. Having said that, I recognize that there's a process related to that, and there's state law which guides it. And you can only have a moratorium if you're actually fixing something that appears broken and you're engaged in an authentic and time-limited effort to get that done. And so the other thing that I want to bring to you soon is the idea of having some consulting services to sort of lead this review, to work with our building, zoning, planning staff and our engineers and so on to make sure that our performance standard code, which we use, and the procedures around that, the application and so on, which we use to make sure that all those environmental impacts and safety issues are handled, are actually kind of up to snuff in comparison to the most modern standards. I think it's entirely appropriate that from time to time a town review its codes, especially ones which are used a lot, like performance standards, and where the costs to the public and to the town and to applicants, frankly, of not having all the clarity possible, can be really significant. And so with that, I would like to make a motion that you support this resolution, which essentially reads that the town board requests the town attorney to draft moratorium legislation addressing shortcomings in the town's procedures and codes for handling industrial project construction applications, which shortcomings create potential hazards for both the public and the applicants, in which moratorium would apply to any non-vested project and be in compliance with all laws pertaining to the adoption of temporary moratoriums. And then if we got that, and we looked at it and we said, okay, this looks like something that would be good for our town, then we would set a public hearing on that town law revision proposal and then go through a process of notification and actually have a discussion of the draft legislation. So I'll make a motion for that. I need a second in order to have discussion. Do I hear a second?
A second for discussion.
Second from Councilman Divany.
I'm just wondering, John Edwards is the town attorney. The attorneys are appointed by the board. We don't need a resolution to have this done. In fact, John prepared a legal memorandum where there was no resolution at my request. So there is no need. John can draft their legislation and we'll workshop it and we'll vote out at a town board meeting. This is kind of misleading to some of the people that are asking for a land use moratorium because this is just going to be putting this off for a while. It doesn't effectively do anything tonight except say, town attorney, please start working on legislation that we might vote on in a couple of months. I just want everyone in the audience to realize that this is not really going to do what some of you are asking for. It's just putting it off. And the fact remains is that John Edwards, competent attorney that works here full-time, doesn't need such a resolution. His job is to do what the supervisor or anyone else on the town board asks him for. So the resolution's not needed. It's kind of, I don't know, fluff and circumstance. It's not needed to be voted on tonight.
I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I feel like, you know, it's really a matter of you know, the simple fact that it's a substantial amount of work, and I know that perhaps you yourself and others on the board have expressed doubt about the appropriateness of a moratorium or whether or not it's legal. I know that you've read that legal memo. And
That I requested.
that you requested, and I thought it was a good thing, and we were all behind that. I don't feel like what I'm proposing is negated by our town attorney's earlier memo about the moratorium for reasons which I can explain. But the bottom line is that I'm asking for your support because I think it's a lot of work for the town attorneys, and I don't want them chasing after stuff just for me. It's something that I think is important. It's something I think our community thinks is important, and I would ask for your support in just getting it done and then seeing what we have. Because frankly, I don't want to. I have a relationship with the town attorneys, and I don't want them doing stuff that the town board doesn't support. So that's why I'm asking for your support.
Let me give you my perspective. I wholeheartedly agree that we should always be looking at the town code, and especially in environmental reasons, we need to look at the town code. My conjecture is by doing this path of a moratorium, we're actually slowing down the process. There's nothing preventing us now from instituting town code changes based on what we deem fit. We could do that anytime as a town board. We don't need to do a big study moratorium. We could attack the major pieces. My other concern with holding a moratorium out there for a period of time is there could be a lot of very good, clean developments and developers that are going to be stymied because they don't know what's going to come out of this moratorium. And they're going to stay on the sidelines or go elsewhere in the meantime. So I actually think this is a long road. If we have ideas to change the town code, let's put them on the table. Let's write them and let's vote on them.
That's exactly where I want to go with this, Tom. And I think that moratoriums are essentially they're fairly routine. If you want to revise your code, then you put a stop on certain kinds of applications. And by making it specific and drafting it very specifically towards the areas of concern, you basically limit the chilling effect it could have on other businesses because they can see very easily that it applies to one thing and not another. But that is a legal document, and I myself, although I can talk and find things that I think ought to be fixed, it's really a matter for legal specialists, and I think we do need that review process, and it's appropriate to have a moratorium while we do it. And understandably, a moratorium which is very much focused on the concerns related to industrial applications with hazardous chemicals and how our planning and zoning and performance standard system works to make sure that we're never in a situation where we're having to commission, you know, environmental studies sort of after the fact to find out things that weren't daylighted right in the beginning during the secret process. And so that's why I recommend this resolution. I understand the concerns you're raising are ones that I've thought about too. And right now, I'm not seeing anybody propose changes other than myself, and I would like the sort of the liberty to pursue it a bit with the help of the town attorneys and knowing that the town board actually supports that.
You're the supervisor. The building department reports to you, the sewer department reports to you, the town attorney department reports to you. Matter of fact, another item, you were also on the planning board for what, 4 years?
Approximately, right.
Yeah. You could call for a task force of your department heads, and with whatever resources that they need, to look at the laws. I read the emails, you know, in terms of whether our laws are out of date or not out of date. If they are, you have the resources to look at that. I don't agree with the moratorium. I don't. And I see this particular resolution as political fluff, because one of the things, if you really thought you were going to have a moratorium or have something passed here tonight, you would have known you had 3 votes. You knew you didn't have 3 votes. You knew that. But you want to play to the crowd, that's fine.
Well, actually, what happened was I sent out what I think is a very well-argued memo.
Of course you thought it was
and that
very well
And
argued.
nobody responded. So I'm asking you to respond now.
You know what's funny about that, Andy? Tom took the time to introduce the study right up front by the town attorney's department. He took the time. You didn't really jump on that, all right?
No, we
because
did. We all wanted
somebody else
that.
had the idea, all right? Your town attorney, our town attorney, gave you all sorts of different opinions, which you're ignoring.
Actually, that's not true. If you want to debate what the town attorney wrote right now, I'm happy to do that. But what I'm asking for you to do is to support a resolution that we get
Is this
the next
resolution
phase.
impacting Inelitech?
It entirely depends upon the, I guess the question would be,
It's a yes or no.
well, Dennis, maybe you should listen to my answer instead of
Well, I'm
just cutting
trying
me
to.
off.
Go ahead.
A moratorium can be written in various ways. The question of whether it affects X, Y, or Z project comes down to what the town board decides. And I would say, because until a project is vested, and that definition depends essentially on whether they've started construction, the project essentially isn't out of the barn. And John, you know, I think that was one of the more clear aspects of his statement, for sure. And I appreciate that. So that's up to the town board, essentially. But we need to get the legislation and see what it looks like. If it applies to any project that's not vested, then presumably it would apply to Inelitech, just like anything else that might be out there that hasn't been built yet. If it applies only, you know, if it excludes projects which already have a preliminary approval or a negative declaration, then clearly it wouldn't. It just depends on where a project is in the pipeline. And it's an important question, but it sort of follows on the basic question, which I want your support on, which is let's have a town board resolution saying, we want to look at this. We want to see draft legislation. We want to fix our town process to make sure that an industrial application is reviewed in a proper way, and that we don't have the horse leaving the barn before we figured out kind of what color it is and what it looks like.
You don't need it.
Excuse me, ma'am. We're having a conversation here, and you spoke before. Thank you. Dennis, what were you saying?
Nothing.
Never mind.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
That's okay. Andy, I understand what you're trying to do here. How many other industrial applications would apply to your moratorium?
That's
Or is this
why it needs to be written
geared-
very specifically to
Or is
really
this
see.
geared just to Inelitech? Because if I read John's memo, it said if you geared this towards one project which is in the process, you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit.
I
So
understand that.
if there is no other projects that meet the criteria you set forth in your moratorium, you're basically putting the town and all of the residents at a bigger risk than Inelitech could be posing.
Which is why I haven't attempted to draft the moratorium
If there's
legislation.
a problem
It-
with our building department codes, we should be attacking our building department codes and seeing what they are and straightening them out.
I'm asking for that review process to take place. I'm asking for your
Well, I
support on it.
think you have my support on a review process because of the new technologies that are in place these days, but you don't have my support on a moratorium because I don't think there's any other applications that are before the planning board or the zoning board that meet the criteria that you set forth here, and it would appear to me that you're going after one specific project for one specific reason. And that puts the town, you know, really behind the 8 ball as far as lawsuits and stuff. Now, did, you
When
know.
you're finished, I want to clarify what I
Yeah,
what I
absolutely.
actually wrote.
My concern, as is yours, right, and as is all of the residents here, although we all express it differently, is the safety and well-being of all of our community, all right? Nobody is here to put the town at risk and allow cancer into our neighborhood and all this stuff. Mr. Pernis misquoted me a little bit when he said that I said, you'll have to accept it. What I said was, if we're going to pay for another study, I volunteered that if you folks found a company that you felt comfortable with because you found problems with the first two companies that did the independent studies, if you found a third company, a company that you wanted to do the study, and we paid for it, that you should accept their findings. Otherwise, if you're not going to accept anybody's findings, why should we pay for the study? That's what I said. So I wasn't, don't twist my words to make it sound like I was, you should be happy and it's safe. That's not what I said. I said, find a company that you feel comfortable with. And if their findings come back the same as the other two, how many companies are we going to have to do an independent test until you accept the findings? I'm not an expert in this, so I rely on the expert companies. We did, Tom and myself talked about this,
And Dennis.
and Dennis,
And I spoke with Tom
and Tom, about our feelings on what should be done with the planning board. And one of the main things I'm not going to do is overstep my bounds with the planning board. So when you guys are telling us, put pressure on the planning boards, I'm not really sure what that means. Does it mean like if I'm unhappy with one of the decisions that our town justices is making, I should go in and put pressure on them? That's illegal. I'm not putting pressure on anybody, but I will give my recommendations, or our recommendations, to the planning board.
And basically, these are the recommendations that myself, Paul, Tom Moore, and Dennis Troy have signed off on.
Before we go into your recommendations,
I'm speaking.
no, but there is a vote on the table.
But this is part of it.
Some votes, we're discussion, there's a discussion.
So this is, just so everyone knows, everyone wants transparency. I'm trying to be transparent. Basically, while recognizing that the planning board has ultimate approval over this project, we feel compelled to weigh in on certain aspects of this application. First and foremost, we believe that any and all chemicals and/or accelerants used or produced in this proposed use be fully disclosed, not redacted, to members of the Orangetown Planning Board under a non-disclosure agreement signed by each planning board member, so that the planning board members are completely informed when making their ultimate decision. Second, that the planning board require as a condition of any approval that a continuous monitor be employed by Inelitech measuring/analyzing the chemicals being discharged and amounts of such discharge. Moreover, should such monitoring reveal that the chemicals being discharged exceed the allowable emission rates, that the plant automatically be shut down and a full investigation be conducted and remedial measures taken before allowing the plant to begin operating again. As further conditions of such approval, that once the plant is completely constructed and prior to the issuance of the final certificate of occupation, that the applicant be required to have a final engineer inspection to ensure that all conditions of approval have been fulfilled and all representations in the applications are accurate, and that the applicant be required to notify the planning board of any modifications or change to its procedures or operations that might impact the safety, health, and welfare of Orangetown residents. And finally, as a final condition of such approval, that the planning board retain the professional services of an air/water quality expert who shall work with the applicant to ensure that the safety concerns of the surrounding community be addressed through monitoring the air/water content of the homeowners adjacent to the Pfizer campus. That's the letter that myself, Paul, Tom, and Dennis are all signing off on, and we're presenting that to the planning board. I'll send an email tonight. But I think these address some of the reasonable, very reasonable concerns. As Paul said, we all live here, we all have kids here. Most of us all grew up here. So these are concerns that I've heard from a lot of members of the community. We took the time to write them down, and these are what we're going to send to the planning board.
We're going to present this to the planning board, not to put pressure, but as recommendations from the town board, that they include these in their approval,
basically addressing the major concerns you guys had. So if they are inclined to approve it, I don't know what they're doing, they're an independent board, but if they are inclined, we'd like to have 24-hour monitoring, which is something you guys asked for, that will automatically shut down the plant if it exceeds the acceptable levels. That's something you asked for. That once the plant is built, that there will be a test of the surrounding area, of the air quality, of the water quality, to make sure that it lives up to what they told us it was going to live up to. If not, the plant will shut down. And that there was a question about some things being redacted in the DEC letter, in the DEC letter about chemical compounds that were being used or emitted from the plant, that we want our board members to be aware of what they are. They may not be available to the general public because of trademark infringement or letting out their secret formula to make this process work, but that our planning board members at least know what that is so that they can make their educated decision tomorrow. So these are just recommendations that we wrote in a letter form that we're going to present to the planning board before their meeting tomorrow.
I think that's a great letter. I would happily sign it as well. And I think the letter that I've already submitted to the planning board, complements it very well, and in some cases duplicates it. So I really do want to say that it's a good letter. Excuse me, I'm still speaking. No, they're not addressing you to get your feedback right now. We're having a conversation on the town board. We had public comment already, so just let us finish. I'm sure the town board members will be available after the meeting to speak. It's great, the letter. I've written those letters, you've written those letters. I think you did a nice job with that, and you've done some stuff with that I didn't get in mind. So I'm happy that the planning board is hearing from each of us in addition to members of the public, and that really is important. Having said that, I feel like it's our job to, as town board members, our action can be certainly to write letters to the planning board, to appear, speak, advise, and so on and so forth, and they will take it, as under consideration the same way they take comments from anybody else. Our job is to make sure that any flaws in the town's review process are addressed. And that's what I'm talking about here, not about the Inelitech application, not about the amount of pollution that might or might not be coming out of a smokestack, but about certain problems that I see anyway, when you have the separation of the performance standards review over at zoning and the secret over at planning. Just as one example, the ongoing monitoring, that requires some work to put together agreements like that. The town board helped when we voted to approve a new set of emissions sort of science reviewers. We got that going, but it was after the fact because it didn't get done when it should have gotten done, which was in the secret process and in the planning board and zoning board review. So that's what I want us to target, and that's what I'm asking for your support on, is to have a kind of push the pause button, but specify very, very well, exactly what are these things that need to be fixed, how long will it take to fix them, what do we need to do to fix them, what applications would they apply to under a moratorium and which ones wouldn't they. So that's my proposal, and absolutely, with all due respect to that letter, because I think it's an excellent one, and if I had the opportunity to sign it, I would sign it as well. But the vote on the table right now is simply whether or not I have a couple of votes to support, making it worth the while of the town attorneys to kind of develop a moratorium law and think about this question of some of these elements in the review process that should be fixed. So I'll call for the deputy clerk for a roll call vote, and we'll let people out of here. All right, so my proposal would be yes.
No. No, for the reasons I stated earlier. You don't need a resolution. We've gone through this before with other times. It's a thing where the supervisor has all the power he needs to bring the people together to look at these laws.
No.
No, as I stated before, if we really wanted to be voting on the legislation would be here tonight. It's just to placate certain people. It's not really to do what people are asking the supervisor to do.
While I support Andy's initiative to upgrade some of the town codes because of the new technologies, I'm voting against the moratorium because there are no other applications, as far as I know, in the planning board, and this would be geared specific towards one company and put us at risk.
The resolution fails. We do have a plan for executive session on a park personnel issue, but before we do that, there are a number of individuals in the town who have passed away, and starting with Mickey Reeves, for whom there's been an enormous outpouring of community support for the family, and I wanted to list several others in whose names we'd like to adjourn this meeting. So it's Mickey Reeves, Patrick Shand, Anna Packer, Archie Edward Morash, Florence Wagner, and Joan Marie Citrone, and Peter Friel. Just K-E-R, Carol Danker. If anybody would like to speak to any of those memorializations, that'd be great.
On Peter Friel, even though he's a Nanuet Clarkstown guy, he was very involved in the State Aid and CYO basketball program back when it began. Did a ton of work with a lot of the other founders of the program. Went from having 3 teams to probably the biggest in the county now, where they have multiple teams at every level. And he was one of the original ones that planted the seed. And it's just a testament to what he did for the kids. And he stayed involved as well in the church along the way, but that was probably a shining achievement, that there's hundreds and hundreds of kids playing basketball at St. Ains now because of Peter.
Mickey Reeves was a 16-year-old who fought a 6-year battle with cancer.
Excuse me, ma'am, that is extremely disrespectful. Any other town board members? All right, thank you very much. We will adjourn. I'll make a motion for adjournment. Do I hear a second? Second from Valentine. All in favor, say aye. But that is pending a short executive session on a parks personnel matter.